In linear economy, we needed like linear efficiency, which was productivity. But in creative economy, we need creative productivity for creative quality. And that is not just a function of time, but it's also a function of energy. And energy is a composite, all the things that you're talking about. And I just thought of this example, like in old age, like if there is a stone and you ask somebody, okay, break the stone. In one day you can break 100 stones, and that's how I'll measure you at the end of the day. But in new age, we don't do like this. We don't just say stone. And what you say resourcefulness, you put a stone and then put person in front of the stone. And now think. That's your brief. And then this person, out of using his resourcefulness or gumption, he starts to break the stone. After some time he says, instead of making those 100 stones, I can make it a bit differently, maybe make it round and make it a wheel. Oh, there is a tree as well. I should go and cut tree and bring some wood as well. So he's just thinking on his own or on her own. And then this person makes a card out of that wheel and the wood. And then he goes even one step further, your type C kind of a guy. He goes further and then he builds a house with it. So this for me is the idea of creativity and this ambiguity that there is no brief now. You have to think what you can do with your skill of breaking stones and breaking wood, for example.
You triggered something maybe on resourcefulness, right? I think something that also triggered a lot in our conversation is that efficiency, whilst it has served certain purpose and certain time of nation building, for example, is a killer of creativity, right? When you focus too much on efficiency, because it's exactly that. I don't have kids, right? But I know friends who have kids, right? And I fully understand and respect parents, right? Is that they will only have the kids learn things that they think is useful. I mean, it seems like they have a crystal ball, that they know what's useful for the kid, right? But because of this efficiency, right, you deprive, right? You deprive the learning of things which you think is not important or not necessary. But you do not know when you're going to recall it, right? And that's the resourcefulness. I mean, the very creative has a mind of like a library, that you can recall anything, right? And you may be reading a book that you completely nothing to do with your job and your right now. And I think that's what we need to encourage as part of learning as well. So whether can we sort of create the tension between creativity and efficiency, which you just brought up that term, I think that's something for us to think about also. How do we encourage that kind of learning, right? How do we break the mold that you not only learn things which you think is important for you in the future, right? Because I mean, like the physics and the math that I learned, right? Yes, whilst it's useful to a certain extent, right? You know what I mean? That kind of thinking, I think, needs that this topic needs to be aired and needs to be discussed, right? Courageously, yeah. Because otherwise, we go down in a track where you only learn things which you think is useful. And luckily, during my time, my parents didn't impose this on me. Yeah, they allow me to do things which eventually, I don't know whether I used it or not, but you have the freedom to learn, you have freedom to sort of pick things up that you think is interesting.
That's why I think creativity has a cultural context as well. Because if you just learn things which are useful, you think like, what will I do that will get me a job? Then you'll not explore. If you don't explore, then you cannot be creative. So I think this is kind of a loop. But I think we can have more dialogue on this. I'll just do my piece as well. I also need to do my dance, so I will do it. So thank you, Chai, first of all, for your sharing. I'll be talking about topic of metaskills, and the whole idea of metaskills and this discourse or this talk that I have is skills. This is a topic, it's very fuzzy, and people talk about capabilities, skills, talent in a very interchangeable, informal kind of way. You need soft skills and so on and so forth. So I'm trying, this is my attempt to bring some kind of specificity to this discourse. Let me also drink water. This is my father, and this is my son.
Yeah, I can see.
My father wanted to be a psychiatrist. He worked hard, got himself into a medical school, and became one. All his life, he worked for one organization and then retired. This was a generation of single ambition, single education, single profession, single organization, and retirement. I'm in between somewhere, trying different things. But this is my son. At the moment, he's studying philosophy in University of British Columbia in Canada. Nikki. By the way, we have a guest from Canada, Nikki. So, hi. And a couple of years ago, he came to me. Among his many talents, beatboxing is one of his talents. And he comes to me, Papa, I'm thinking of becoming a professional vocal percussionist. So like, what? I didn't know what is it. And then I said, hey, if not an engineer like your dad or a writer like your mom, can you at least try psychology? He said, okay. Then he tried first semester in UBC, psychology, but that's it. He said, I'm bored. I've already studied what I had to study about psychology, even on my own. He took linguistics, Japanese, and kinesiology because he's into bodybuilding in his second semester and third semester. He said, enough of it as well. Then he said, I'll do philosophy major. He started to get bored in that. And now he's doing philosophy major, but along with it, he started an AI startup with his 16-year-old son, not son, 16-year-old cousin who is studying commerce and doing coding. I said, why are you studying commerce? He said, like, coding anyhow, I know, computing, this is my passion. And I want to become a businessman, I want to become an entrepreneur, I need to study commerce, for example. And then along with it, my son, now this is about my son, he is also doing an edtech startup with a friend of his. And last month, he was studying solar panels to strangers in Calgary. I said, what's your logic? He said, I want to build my meta skill of talking to strangers and how to persuade them and how to sell things to them. So this is the future generation. They have multiple ambitions, multiple educations, many are parallel professions, and many are no organizations. So my point is that for this generation and the future generation after this, is our learning system, our work system ready or not? And my point is it's not ready yet. So if you look at this emphasis and life progression. So all of our lives, we are trained in function-specific skills. You are a programmer, you're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a logo maker. After 24 years of studying, you enter your work life, and then you're asked to give and take feedback, you're asked to work with other people, you're asked to collaborate. Then I say, oh, but this was not taught to me in school, but you played football, you know how to collaborate. So what we do is we train people with emphasis on these function-specific skills, and all other skills which are more important as you progress in your life, they are taught to you as CCAs, or you learn along the way. So I see this as a very big learning gap, that we are just, whole social system, whole economy is running on one leg, because we are running on function-specific skills, and the meta skills, which are more important or become increasingly important as we kind of go along a life progression. And another way to put it, that like we have a cart which one wheel is broken. So this journey can be dangerous if not inefficient alone. And this gap is exacerbated with the way technology is evolving. So rate of diffusion of technology is much faster than we can adopt cognitively or biologically. And this time it is even more, in a way, profound, because the battle is not of stone engines, the mechanical battle, it's battle of mind. So my question at this point in time is that the future that we cannot control, technology, we don't know what will be tomorrow. Like in my time, people used to learn Pascal and C. Now, like if you have Pascal or C, like yes, you can have a bit of niche, but you don't get proper jobs. So you cannot control technology, you cannot control future, so what is it that you can control? And I feel that what is in our control is being human. But what it means to be human. And I started to think about it, and I started to bring it down to the level of skills, which is very practical. And the answer was a bit serendipitous. This is one of our ex-colleagues, Roma. She used to come to me during course of user research project. Hey boss, I've done 6 interviews. How many more shall I do? I said, like, take a call. because I have the same information about the project as you have, why you're coming to me for a decision. That made me think, what is of more importance to me in this? Her skill as a user researcher or her skill as a leader, which was to take a call? Because if she takes a call, I become redundant, and that's more powerful for the company. And that made me think, what are these skills that make people more important or more effective? And those are the meta skills, not just the technical skills or a combination of that. So for me, take a call was judgment. Like, can you take a call, make a decision? To do what? To solve some kind of a problem. And then when you solve that problem, you have a pattern in your head. When that next time that problem comes, you apply that same learning. So for me, these were the three skills: judgment, creative problem solving, and learning to learn. These are the meta skills. I'm not saying these are the only meta skills, but this gave me a starting point for a thesis of what could be meta skills. And these skills are important now, but these skills were also important long time ago. Just imagine when there was nothing on this planet and there was a lion pouncing on you and you ran away, you saved your life, you used the judgment call because you had seen somebody being mauled by a lion, and you solved the problem of saving your life. And then you learned, and that's how this is the very basic example. But if you see all of our life, this is how we have learned. This is how we have learned to make engines. This is how we have learned to make AI and technology and so on and so forth. So that gave me a starting point, as I said, to kind of define what are meta skills. And I was also like going into this rut of like social skills, this skills, life skills, and so on and so forth. But then if you come to more specificity, meta skills has these four key features. One is their composite. So if you have to develop, say, a meta skill of judgment or empathy, you cannot learn it directly because it is composed of different other skill units, different meta skills. So empathy is composed of, if you don't have the capability to be aware of yourself and your surroundings, if you're not sensitive enough, if you don't have the ability to develop a perspective, you cannot be empathetic. So empathy constitutes of these many skills. And once you kind of master empathy, then it becomes foundational. You can apply it in different situations. You can be a better user researcher. You can be a better leader applying empathy. And these skills, they are transferable. For example, if you master the meta muscle of being a creative problem solver, you can apply it into different situations. And these skills are used in combination. So for example, judgment and creative problem solving can be used together. So one meta skill can be used along with other meta skill, but also one meta skill can be used with another function-specific skill. So to be a good coder, if you're empathetic, you'll be a better coder. So broadly, I define meta skills as higher order situation and context agnostic general purpose skills that are effectively transferable to solve a varied set of problems. Basically skills that can be applied in different scenarios without losing their effectiveness. And it's not just me who has kind of worked on it. I think in 2013, there was a book by Martin Neumeyer, and he talks about these 5 skills of learning, feeling, doing, stuff like that. But I think in all the work that has happened, nobody has tried to go into like what are these skills and how do we master them, like rather than like one line of definition. And people have tried to define it as skill of skills, help you learn and adapt, transcend specific professions, so it can be applied in different industries, and it is about how we think. So now we have a certain definition in our head that these are 4 features. They are composite, foundational, transferable, and are used in combination. Then how do we master these skills? So I try to kind of unpack it and try to see what could be the way that we can learn them. So it can be any skills. For example, like you can use a meta skill of networking, but let's use example of judgment, creative problem solving, and learning to learn. So if these are the skills, then first step you have to do is you have to unpack them. So like to learn judgment, you cannot learn judgment directly. You can unpack them as like smaller skill units of self-knowledge, social knowledge, context knowledge, understanding of purpose, critical thinking, empathy, courage, bias for action, and moral compass. So if you are able to train in all of them, that's why mastering these meta skills, it takes time. You cannot just master judgment just like that. And then creative problem solving. If you break creative problem solving, it is about creativity, it is about visualizing things. It could be more, like I've just given an example. Complexity consciousness, responsiveness, courage, adaptability. Learning to learn, it's about, again, self-knowledge, being experimental, visual thinking, curiosity, courage. And if you see, one meta skill can become a skill unit in some other, to master some other meta skill. So eventually what I'm trying to do is that, can we create a library of these skills? And then we train in them, build muscles in them, and then when they are combined together, they are able to give you a meta skill that could be applicable in certain situation. So what do we do after this? Once you have unpacked it, as I said earlier, you cannot learn these skills directly. Like if you have to learn empathy or judgment, you cannot just learn empathy or judgment by reading about it. You need to put yourself in a certain environment where these muscles you have to exercise. So this framework helps you see that. So meta skills is, say, for example, creative problem solving. And there are multiple skill units, as I just shared earlier. You pick one. I want to build empathy. How do you build empathy? So you need to find a proxy environment where you can kind of use empathy. So for example, in this case, you can look for autistic school or old age home. Then you see what kind of role there I play so that I'm able to kind of practice this muscle of mine. So you choose your role as a teacher or caretaker, and then you create a routine, create a plan, create some kind of a habit routine that I'll go there every weekend for 4 weeks. And once you go there, you do journaling, and this, I've simplified this tool, but like once you go there, journal, work for, it is not like 1 day or 2 days, you have to do it continuously for a period of time. Then you see, where can I apply it? So you can see, you started your empathy with autistic school or old age home, but then once your muscle, that's why it is a meta muscle, once it gets developed, you can try to channelize it in other situations. So you come to meeting that, oh, there is a meeting, there is a problem for unproductive meeting. So you can have something like this. If there is a point of disagreement in a meeting or someone has been irritating me, I will pause and reflect on how I can be sensitive to condition or point of view or perspective of others. So this way, you can also write this line just like that. But once you write this line after experiencing all that and consciously building that muscle, then there are more chances of being effective. And this kind of, I try to synthesize this in the form of a framework. So whenever you have to kind of start this exercise of identifying these meta skills or building them, you have to start with intentionality, that yes, I am open to building these meta skills. Because if you say like, oh no, I cannot develop empathy or I cannot, then it doesn't start. So first of all, you have to work on that. Then you have to, in your context, you have to see what are the meta skills that are needed in your context that you can, that are needed in your work, for example. Once you have done that, then start to unpack, then find a proxy environment, then practice them, then apply. So for this, like, we have developed very simple frameworks that we are testing out at the moment. For intentionality, how can you build that? For mapping, how can you kind of map? So it is not just directly like you map what are the skills. You have to look at like what kind of work I'm doing. Am I using function-specific skills more, other skills more? Where is the gap that I find in a way, which skills which I lack at the moment, and that's how you decide, oh, this skill I need to build. And this is not something that, okay, at an individual level, at like maybe small company level, we can start to do, but this change we need which is much bigger. As I said earlier, we are running on one leg. So we have to look at systemically. We have to look at our education system, like from K-10 to university. We have to look at our work system, like how we hire, how is lifelong learning happening, how is remuneration system happening, and also how we have to look at our social and cultural norms. How do we, or what kind of biases do we have towards learning and success? And map them one by one. And it's a very big project. In fact, there was a project called MetaCoin funded by European Union, where they did a meta skills mapping in different countries. And that also talk, that study also I've referred in my study. And then once you have mapped that, then see what are the tools and programs that can help you to kind of bridge that gap of meta skills. and then change the assessment systems. So at the moment, because we are very much biased towards like function-specific skill measurements, so can we bring assessment of like, say, how am I in creativity or how am I in empathy, for example, into the work system as well. And for this change, we have to look at our school system, our work system, our policies, and our culture norms. And I think we need some kind of a learning revolution at every level. We need to move from study. And I was talking to Dr. Wang Sweet-Fan like a few days ago, and she said, my daughter, she doesn't like to study, but she loves to learn. And that made me think, because we are sending kids for education to study, and that's the dampener actually. So if we send them to learn, I think kids are excited because we are curious by nature as human beings. So we have to move from study or school system to learning system, work system to human potential and well-being places these organizations should be. From governance to citizen service, like how can government be a service, not just like compliance and being on top of you. And we have to move from these cultural dogmas that if you study mathematics, if you score well in mathematics, you're in this stream and you're good. If you talk well, then you become a commentator, later earn millions, but at the time you were bad. So we have to move away from those dogmas. And of course, we have to work at systemic level, but I think all of us can start at individual level, maybe reflect on us, what is one meta skill that I'm lacking, or what is one meta skill that I want to develop. Thank you so much. May I invite Chawi as well now? I think. Maybe your comments first, and then we can.
No, thanks for sharing that, because it's the context about learning, right? And for me, it actually is very interesting, is because you just mentioned about Sweet Fan's daughter, right? She loves to learn, but she hates studying, and I think that is almost like the insight that learning is so formalized in our lives and in our society. I'm not an educator, I got to profess that, right? But through the years of working with educators, I do pick up, and of course the interest in it as well. I was just thinking that perhaps we are still stuck in the industrial age of learning, where you put people in classrooms, right? And sort of in a very effective way, right? Just push a set of theories across to this group of people. And maybe that have to change, right? So that's one aspect of it that your talk has provoked in me. The other is that I'm looking into the organization, be it mid-sized or large organization. It's that there is things like formalized training, right? Employees will go through training. And then, of course, there's a self-learning, which is up to the individual. But what I see, perhaps not done a lot, is actually coaching, which is a form of learning, right? I mean, as in that you could help the other individuals to learn. That is something which probably can be done also outside of the school, of the corporate or office environment, work environment. Maybe the word coach is still a bit too formal, but that act of having somebody who has more experience or who has gone through that before to give guidance, or to say, well, maybe next time you can do it this way, or this is what I've done before, that part I think we're still not doing enough, that we are not tapping enough into the experience and the past. There's a tendency to just layer upon new things. So how do we make better use of that? And I brought the report of the DAC. Okay, I'm not trying to sell this report. I mean, you can download it, but I'll do it without the reason that, you see, in this report you see a lot of black and white pictures, right? Every beginning of chapter we chose an old photograph, right? It is not just for creative photography direction that we felt, nice to interject it with a black and white. No, but we were very conscious to say that there's so much to learn from the past that we could project into the future. One of which is this one. Yeah. So this is chapter on the new foundation, right? It's a point of vision for the future of design education. And together with the team, I picked an image of kids playing the 5-foot way. I think we all know enough about the 5-foot way in Singapore, right? And it's just kids taking a piece of chalk, scribbling on the floor and playing hopscotch. So that it was, because of constraints, right? There's no beautiful playground right now. If you go to estates, right, the playground is all beautiful and it's all already there for you, right? Constraints of space, constraints of resource. What do? You got to exercise your own creativity. You got to create your own fun, right? With a piece of chalk, you're going to just be there enjoying for the rest of the day, right? We got to bring that back. How do we bring that back in a society which is so abundant in terms of resource and availability of things, right? How do we talk a lot in schools probably about how do we create hunger in kids, right? That seems to always be a perpetual conversation, but maybe we could, in a different form, right, create that artificial scarcity back in ourselves, right? So I just want to just reflect that. And of course, Nev, you were sharing how you want to break it down into chunks which eventually you could deliver it across, because these are very abstract skills or capabilities. And I remember having a conversation as well with some policy stakeholders, right? We talk about creative education. The first question they asked was like, how do you teach creativity? It's like, what? So we got to reframe a lot of those things. So like you say, it's a revolution, and I think we can start the revolution. There are levers for us available that we could do that, and I don't think we need to start from schools alone. You see?
Yeah.
Right. We can also seed it in organizations, in companies, in the work environment as well. Right?
So that's how it has to be systemic in a
yeah.
way, not just in schools actually.
Yeah.
So it goes all the way then.